We have about 30 honorable members who want to intervene. And the way the table office recorded it, if I'm to go by the list like this, we'll just concentrate on the side and everybody raised his or her tag at the same time. So I will be juxtaposing from here to there so that everybody will have an opportunity, at least from both sides. But let's just be very to the point and precise, and know that we're debating the report. If you can link the interventions to the report, I think it will help to expedite the proceedings. Honorable Member for Jara East. Yeah, no, it's Jara East. Yes, Jara East, thank you.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the floor. I will also join my colleagues to thank the Special Select Committee of the National Assembly on the implementation of the state of public emergency. Madam Speaker, you will agree with me that this committee has done a tremendously good job taking into account the issues surrounding COVID-19. They have taken a supreme risk, Madam Speaker, in convening meetings basically to address issues bordering on the pandemic. And I want to thank them for a job well done. Madam Speaker, the essence of easing regulation restrictions is geared towards alleviating the suffering of our masses. And I think the special committee have done that. Madam Speaker, but notwithstanding, the restrictions have their own side effects as well. They have their ups and downs. Madam Speaker, vast number of our constituents are affected as a result of these emergency measures. And I think we must all put on our thinking caps to ensure how to alleviate their suffering. Because the essence of our being here is to wipe their tears. That's the long and short of our being here as people who are representing their constituents. Madam Speaker, I have some problems with some of the regulations that were enforced. The mode of enforcement, there's a problem there. If we say social distancing or physical distancing, Madam Speaker, is not observed in certain places. For example, if we go to our markets, there is hardly an element of social or physical distancing being practiced. Madam Speaker, if you go to our ferry terminals, people are crammed into the ferries. I am cognizant of the fact that the authorities have reduced the number to half, but yet still, if you look at the passengers on board the ferry, you tend to wonder as to whether the regulations are giving any regard. Madam Speaker, and these restrictions have a lot of casualties. One of them has to do with our religion. Coming to a month now, the mosques and churches have been deserted, basically due to the restrictions. I would urge the Special Select Committee or this August body to please have a look at some of these restrictions. If some of them can be eased, and I think it's high time for us to ease them, especially when it comes to the issue of religion. Madam Speaker, it goes without saying that religion is the opium of the society. It is very, very key to our existence. If markets, ferry terminals are allowed to be congested, either by design or by default, I want to suggest humbly that our religious places like the mosques and churches for us to consider. In doing that, Madam Speaker, I can tell you, it will serve as a very good measure. Because I believe fervently, when you go to our churches or our mosques, when we pray before the Almighty God, that is another way of lessening the pandemic. That's my detached opinion. Madam Speaker, the suffering of our people must be considered beyond all reasonable doubts. People who are here and they are commuters traveling to the provinces, the amount of money they are charged to pay, Madam Speaker, is quite exorbitant. Some are forced fares, double fares. This I have confirmed because I took it upon myself to go I went to one of the garages just to know what obtains. But believe you me, some of the passengers that were bound for my constituency, definitely speaking, we are not happy. And I think there is a need for us to look into this very closely. It is not fair. The regulations, the restrictions, Madam Speaker, or regulations are meant to lessen the suffering of our people. And they are also here to help in assuaging the suffering of our people. That is the alpha and omega of our being here. If that is defeated, Madam Speaker, then there's a problem. There's a problem. The regulations were even violated by people who are highly placed. I can tell you this. People who are highly placed violated the regulations. And that is not sending a good signal. They said charity begins at home. We expect those who are highly placed to observe and respect in total the regulations that were passed here in this August Assembly. Madam Speaker, you don't expect a lawmaker to be a lawbreaker. That is quite unfathomable. We must make sure that we respect the regulations in total. But what is very, very important here, Madam Speaker, is the plight of our people. That's very key. That is very key. How are these regulations being felt by our people, these restrictions? And I think if you look at the wider picture, we will know that, definitely speaking, some of our people are not happy with some of these regulations in place. Because I can tell you, some of them live from hand to mouth. Some of them are menial laborers. If they go to the market, they sell their wares. That's what they use, to feed their family. That's what they use to eat out a living. So if the restrictions are there, to serve as a barrier for them to get their livelihood, I think we should give a second thought. That is very key. Madam Speaker, having said that, the 21 days, Madam Speaker, is very good. It's very good. But do we have what it takes to enforce these regulations to the letter? That is the million-dollar question. Do we have what it takes in terms of human resources, material resources, and you name it? That is the million-dollar question. If laws are printed on letters of gold and they are not enforced, Madam Speaker, they are as futile as their non-existence. If laws are printed on letters of gold and they are not enforced to the letter, they are as futile as their non-existence. I think we have to think about that also, because that's very key. And the essence of this emergency powers is to save our people from contracting this deadly coronavirus. But from the look of things, people are not in the habit, most people are not in the habit of respecting the regulations. Madam Speaker, I think we should be very, very cognizant of that. I, for one, I think the 21 days, Madam Speaker, is on the high side. What I would suggest, if at all we can prevail on our people, embark on mass sensitization, and advise them to stick to WHO standards, that is, by regularly washing their hands and maintaining social distance, and also know how to sneeze, when to sneeze, where to sneeze. I think that will help a lot. Yes. Some they don't know when to sneeze and how to sneeze. The new makers, they don't know. You see? I think that will help a lot, Madam Speaker. For that being the case, Madam Speaker, I think for the 21 days, I think we should not go in for the 21 days. Because it is going to multiply the suffering of our people. Honestly speaking, it is going to multiply the suffering of our people. And the long and short of our being here is only to transform the fantasies of our people into realities. So if they are feeling the pinch, we should be there to assist them. We should be there to assuage the suffering that they are going through. Believe you me, if you go to my constituency, Yara East, there are some households, they are living in abject poverty. And that is across the entire Gambia, I can say, in the provinces. They find it very difficult to put food on the table because of the restrictions. This, I have gone there and I have seen with my naked eye. This is an eyewitness account. It's not a hearsay. I was on the ground. I sympathize with some of them and equally empathize with them. But there's little that I could do. I think their plight must be put into consideration. Head of a household, you wake up in the morning thinking that you'll go to work, to the market, to sell your produce, but you cannot do it because of regulations in place. And there's no one that will come to your aid. Yes, I'm not oblivious of the food aid that the government has rolled out or about to roll out. And I know it's better late than never. I must commend the government for having the initiative or the foresight to assuage the plight of the Gambians, I must commend them for a job well done, even though better late than never. But I think there is need for us to put in mechanisms so as to know how to distribute these food items. Madam Speaker, the trickle-down effect must always be felt. If that is not felt, the beneficiaries will find themselves at the receiving end of suffering. And may God forbid, if that happens, the whole food package, the whole palliative measure is going to be defeated. No one is praying for the multiplication of this COVID-19. We are all united in dedication, in diversity, in solidarity, but also in adversity. It is the nation in crisis. And it is the nation that is wearing the same thinking cap. Although our thinkings might differ, but that does not mean that Mr. X or Mr. Y does not wish well for the country. We can have divergent opinions, but no matter divergent opinions, the health of our people is very, very paramount, Madam Speaker. If we observe WHO standards, hand washing, regularly and thoroughly, we fumigate our environment, observe social distancing and physical distancing, decongest in our private places, Madam Speaker, this COVID-19 will be given a heavy blow. But lest we do that, it will be very difficult for it to abate. The only panacea to keep this thing at bay is to observe WHO guidelines thoroughly and also observe social or physical distancing. With that, Madam Speaker, there is tendency for this disease to be defeated. Madam Speaker, to conclude, I would urge all Gambians to remain committed, to be united in solidarity, united in dedication, and united in commitment. That's the only way COVID-19 could be kept at bay. We must all focus on the same thing and make sure the powers that be are also not found wanting in terms of violating these said, restrictions that are in place. Madam Speaker, if a man in the street violates a regulation, that will not make much attention. Madam Speaker, but a highly placed individual, if that person violates, Madam Speaker, that will amount to an egregious violation. Because you have the enlightenment, you have the awareness, but still you violate. That's quite egregious. We should not allow that. We must be examples, we must be pace setters, so that we will serve as role models for all those progress aspirants. So with this remark, Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Special Select Committee. You are indeed special, because you sat in special moments. Thank you.
Thank you very much.